For the first time in history, Anthropic has more revenue than OpenAI. $30 billion in annual recurring revenue versus OpenAI's $24 billion. Think about that for a second. The company that everyone wrote off as just a safety lab just lapped the company that started this entire AI revolution. And I think most people have no idea what this means for the tools you use, the prices you pay, and which AI company wins the next 5 years. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We cover AI news every single week, and this week is genuinely one of the biggest stories of the year. All right, let's get into it. On this channel, we track what matters in AI. Not the hype, but the actual signals that tell you where the industry is heading. Today, we're breaking down Anthropic's revenue overtake, what drove it, and why it should change how you think about Claude versus ChatGPT for your work or business. This is the story nobody's talking about clearly enough. Let's start with the facts. Anthropic hit $30 billion in annual recurring revenue. OpenAI is at $24 billion. That's not a rounding error. That's a $6 billion gap that didn't exist 12 months ago. Now, some context. OpenAI still has way more consumer users. ChatGPT has hundreds of millions of people using it every month. But users and revenue are very different numbers when you're talking about B2B enterprise contracts. Here's the story behind Anthropic's growth. It's not consumer subscriptions. It's enterprises. Large companies, banks, law firms, healthcare systems paying massive contracts to run Claude through the API. These are $500,000 to multi-million-dollar deals. One enterprise contract can be worth 10,000 consumer subscriptions. Anthropic's bet on safety and reliability has paid off in a very specific way. Enterprise buyers want AI that doesn't go off the rails. They want consistent outputs. They want compliance documentation. And increasingly, they're choosing Claude. But revenue alone doesn't tell the whole story. This week, Anthropic also announced they've doubled rate limits for Claude Code and the API. How? They signed a compute deal with SpaceX's Colossus One data center, getting over 300 megawatts of new capacity. 300 megawatts. That's enough to power a small city. And this is the real battleground right now. It's not models, it's compute. Because the companies that can run the most inference at the lowest cost per token are the ones that win at scale. OpenAI has Microsoft's Azure, Google has its own infrastructure, and now Anthropic has SpaceX. The compute war is on. Here's the spicy take. Compute partnerships might matter more than model benchmarks in 2026. If Claude runs twice as fast and costs half as much because Anthropic has cheap compute, that beats a slightly better model from a competitor with infrastructure constraints. Okay, so why does this matter to you? A creator, a small business owner, a developer? First, pricing. When Anthropic makes more money and has more compute, prices come down. We've already seen API prices drop multiple times in the last year. Competition is the best thing that's ever happened to the cost of running AI in your business. Second, product investment. More revenue means more product development. Claude for Microsoft 365 just launched. You can now use Claude directly in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. This is Anthropic going after the office worker market, and it's a direct shot at Microsoft Copilot. Third, market signal. If you've been exclusively using ChatGPT for your work, now is a great time to seriously try Claude. Opus 4.7, which just dropped this week, and we have a full review later in this series, is genuinely impressive on complex tasks. Many people who switch never go back. If you want to try Claude or compare the two for your own work, I'll leave the links below. Let me give you the macro view here. 6 months ago, the AI race looked like this. OpenAI leads, everyone else follows. Now it looks like this. Anthropic and OpenAI are in a genuine dead heat for enterprise revenue. Google is making serious moves with Gemini, and Meta is spending $115 billion this year alone on AI infrastructure. This is no longer a one-horse race. And that's actually great news for users, because competition drives innovation and price compression in ways monopolies never do. Here's my honest read. OpenAI has a cultural problem. They've been through multiple leadership crises, key researchers keep leaving, and the advertising push in ChatGPT, which we're covering in another video this week, signals they're under pressure to monetize faster than the business naturally would. That's not a death knell, but it's a yellow flag. Anthropic, meanwhile, has quietly executed. They've built a reputation for reliability that enterprise customers pay a premium for. And with the SpaceX compute deal, they can now actually deliver at scale. If this breakdown was useful, give it a like. It seriously helps the algorithm push this to more people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got the ChatGPT ad story and the full Claude Opus 4.7 review dropping this week. Comment below. Are you Team ChatGPT or Team Claude for your work in 2026? I want to hear where you've landed. I'll see you in the next one.